Hey all, this is Jess. Welcome back to Sunflower Dairy. Today I'm going to be talking about pre-sprouting dahlia tubers. So usually every year in the fall we dig up our dahlia tubers and save them for over the winter because our zone is 6 and it's still a little too chilly for us to leave our dahlia tubers in the ground. But this year I wanted to add a few more dahlia tuber varieties to our dahlia tubers. So let's get started. So I'm going to be pre-sprouting some dahlia tubers. So when you're pre-sprouting dahlia tubers, there are multiple benefits of doing this. One, your varieties will flower sooner if you get them started sooner. And you can also take cuttings from your dahlia tubers to try to multiply the amount of plant you have. So to do this, we're going to need our dahlia tubers and we're going to need a tray of soil. So when picking out dahlia tubers, when you're looking at dahlia tubers, you want to make sure that they look solid, they don't look shriveled up or hollow or even look like they have mold or any kind of fungus on them. You also want to look for some signs of life. So if you see little eyes on your dahlia tubers, that is a really good sign. So it is really easy to pre-sprout your dahlia tubers. So you want to make sure that you have your dahlia tubers that have eyes. You're going to put your dahlia tubers right on top of your potting soil in your tray, and then you're just going to cover the very bottom of your dahlia tubers, and then it will start pushing out new growth. Now I usually do this with multiple different dahlia varieties in the same tray, so I'll just label each variety and each tuber so I know exactly which one is which. And then after your dahlia tubers start sprouting, and once they get about this big, then I will take cuttings. So when you take cuttings, you're going to cut pretty close down to the dahlia tuber, and then you're just going to take your cutting and then you can either dip it in cutting powder or you can just put it directly into your little soil container. I've also heard of people taking cuttings and putting them in water, so there's multiple different ways that you can do it, but dipping the actual cuttings into powder and then putting it into the soil, I hear that's definitely the best way. So I'm going to go ahead and put different varieties in here, and then I'm going to label them, and then we will put them in a warm room so that they can start sprouting. So this is our first dahlia variety. So dahlias are not only great for having in your garden, for pollinators, butterflies, all of that, but dahlias are good for cut flowers, or some varieties of dahlias are even edible. This is our second dahlia variety. So you can multiply your dahlias if you get new varieties or if you save your tubers from the following year like I do. Now when storing dahlia tubers, you're going to dig up your dahlia tubers in the fall before your first freeze, and then you're going to bring them in and let them cure, and then you're either going to store them in a little bit of dry soil or you're going to put them in wood chips. Some people, I've also heard of them putting them in vermiculite, or you can just keep them in a clump of dirt right after you dug them out of the ground and just leave them in a box or a paper bag. I've heard of people doing that. It's quick, it's easy, and you don't really have to worry about it. And then in the spring you can just plant them, or you can pre-sprout them and multiply your dahlias. Now dahlia cuttings is not the only way to multiply your dahlias. Now with your dahlia tubers, there's multiple tubers that grow on your dahlias, and you can easily just divide your tubers and then make them into individual plants. So there's several different ways to multiply your dahlias. This is our next dahlia variety we're going to be pre-sprouting. So there are several different dahlia varieties. There's tall, huge dinner plate Dahlia varieties, or there's just like the medium size, smaller cutting Dahlia varieties, or there's little small compact like for flower pot Dahlia varieties. So figuring out which Dahlia variety you want, that will help you figure out which dahlias you'd like to grow and have in your garden. Now here, I like to grow the taller cutting varieties of dahlias because I do a lot of cut flower farming, and I do cut flower subscriptions and all that. I also like to have cut flowers on my table and all around the homestead. So the cutting varieties of dahlias is what I like to grow. All right, so our last step for pre-sprouting our dahlia tubers is we're just going to cover the very bottom of our dahlia tubers with a little bit of soil, and then after these are all covered, we're just going to spritz them a little bit with a spray bottle and then let them pre-sprout. All right, I'm going to finish up getting my dahlia tubers all ready for pre-sprouting, but thank you for watching. Have a blessed day.